Great. So thanks everyone so much for joining. As I said, my name is Charles Clark. I'm the marketing director of Boma, and joining me today is Tom Wilson, director of Better Marketing Results. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Charles, great to be here today. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, look, before we get started, I thought we would just take just a minute or two to look at the pre-work that you did. Now, we always appreciate when you do take the time to fill this out, because what we really believe strong is that it's going to give you guys some context to where you are sitting, where your websites are sort of sitting amongst your wider peer group. So thank you for giving us these answers. Obviously, we treat them as privileged, and we won't be sharing this information with anyone. But just for today's purposes, it's quite useful. So 37% of respondents, which is pretty much 90% of you, rated their website as 1 or 2 out of 5. So a little bit of work to do there. 44% gave themselves 3 out of 5, which is a nice kind of medium number. Not necessarily great, but not equally bad. 18% gave themselves 18. Which is great to see that some of you are really getting up to that point where you feel like your website is doing everything it needs to do. And interesting, only 1% scored your own website 5 out of 5. So clearly, some few of you are doing incredibly well out there, but it seems like for the majority of you, there probably are a few things, or maybe quite a few things that you can do to your website to help it do more for you. Now, some of the biggest challenges, which I'm sure are directly related to the scores that you gave, were really interesting. And as ever, content is the big issue. How do we get enough content on our website? How do we make sure it's the right content? How do we even make sure that we are talking about our products and our services, as well as blogs in the right way? Maintenance and updating websites is always quite high. So, once you have your website, it's not you don't just leave it there. It's a living, breathing organism. You need to sort of make sure that it's updated continually, both from a content perspective, but also from a performance and sort of technical aspect as well. And I know that Tom will have a few things to say on that. Then we went down the scale to conversions and leads, making sure that your website is doing the job of driving, those leads, those conversions to your firm. And then kind of the tail end was kind of, time to spend with your website, making sure it is working from an SEO perspective, the ease of use for your clients, maybe to navigate it, driving traffic, the design, and so on. So I think, I hope that's given you a bit of a feeling. You'll know the challenges that you had and where you ranked your website as to where you fit amongst your peers. And I really think some of the tips today should help you, or should give you some ideas on where to start to improve it.
I'll just jump in there quickly too, Charles. I think it's interesting to see that, most people, and this reflects everyone I talk to as well. I'm sure it's the same for you. We've seen hundreds of accounting websites out there. Everyone's sort of okay with their site. Everyone generally has one, so they're above 0. But people wonder, and I think the third challenge people had there was time. Is how do you, and that relates to those first 2 challenges too, which is content and maintenance and keeping the site updated. So how do you find the time to get all of that done? And I think some of the things we'll talk about today, which are most powerful there, is automating a bit of that and getting that so it just happens without having to think about it, which is the only reason any of us run a successful business, is things happen without you having to think about it too much, because you set processes or people into place. So we'll just extend that to a website, and I think we'll talk a lot about that, which I'm most excited about, I think.
Yeah, no, great point. So the first slide I'm going to kick off with is being clear about what you do. And as you can see here, I've chosen Maisie Harris as an example. And I did this for a couple of reasons. One, they're really well regarded across the industry. 2, they've got a well thought out website, and obviously we'll go through that in the next slide. And 3, they're also a Boma user. Which is nice, because we do like to sort of, it's nice to talk about people who are using Boma rather than, people who maybe we don't have a relationship with. So that's why we've chosen Maisie Harris. And I think what they achieve really well on this slide here is that they are very clear about what they do and what they offer to prospective clients. And in this case, what they've done really well is having that clear value proposition. And so the value proposition is basically a promise, and it describes the value that you are going to deliver to your clients. Now, it's usually captured in a short statement, and it clearly defines what your company does, how you meet your clients' needs, and why they should choose you over a competitor. So a great value proposition clearly states your unique point of difference as well. Now, look, I realize it's not easy to capture this in a short statement or in one proposition, but when you have done this, it provides you with a really powerful tool for converting your prospects into clients. Now, a couple of things to think about. So the value proposition is going to give your prospects the reason to buy from you. It's also going to bring your internal team together behind your unique selling point. And it's also going to be really useful for your wider marketing communications. In this case, you can see here, they've got theirs right in the hero section of their website. And so their value statement or proposition reads, pedal to the metal, a fresh new approach to accounting business development. And already this positions Maisie Harris a little bit differently from maybe other accounting firms. So they want to be seen as forward-thinking, forward-focused, and really driven. So pedal to the metal, they're all about action and making a difference. And also a new way of approaching accountants. And you have to think that this may not be right for everyone, but they figure that this is what represents them. And also this is what's going to appeal to their ideal client. So that is also a key part of, thinking about your value proposition is who is your ideal client and how does your value proposition meet them where they are? Because if there's a disconnect, it's obviously going to be a bit strange. Now we do have a little bit of a more insight into this, and I'll just pop it into the Q&A. So this, or actually I'll just pop into the chat. So this is basically a link to a blog post that we wrote, and it has kind of more details on how you can actually go about creating that value proposition.
I think just to add in some other ones that I've seen that are really good is, for example, we did one for a firm sort of said, and this is more to do with Australian firms, we know you by name, not ABN. ABN being obviously your business number, and the idea there being, firstly, you're telling people that you work mainly with businesses. You're not saying that you really work too much with individuals and tax returns, or like maybe you do them if you have to. But secondly, it exemplifies that personalized service that you give to people, and that is your point of difference, or that is one of the points of difference. And so I think you've got to come up with something that is grabbing but shows people immediately who you're targeting, what kind of people you're targeting, what your service offering is, as Charles said. So there's tons of examples. You can ask us for more afterwards as well.
Now the next slide is all about being clear about what you're offering. So you've got your value proposition, and now you can tell the viewers of your website what you offer them. In this case, I'm specifically talking about the services. And you can see how Maisie Harris cleverly talks about compliance services, because look, we know that compliances are a lot of firms' bread and butter, or maybe more, it's a significant part of your business. But they also really make they're focusing more on those advisory services. So you can see here just on the left-hand side, they talk about their compliance services, and they've got fixed priced packages. But then on the right-hand side, the focus is really around those high value advisory services, which in this case are reflecting their desire to help their clients' businesses grow. Now, the nice thing about how they've structured this is that when they click on, for example, cash flow forecasting, they click on to learn more, they go across to this landing page on the right here. And you can see here, it's a great dynamic landing page, and it's going to tell the reader everything Maisie Harris thinks they should know about the service, including, why they offer the service, who it's relevant for, how it works, and the benefits. So right there, the person can go through and decide if this service is the right thing for them. And then obviously, and we'll talk about this in another minute or two, they've got the call to action button. So everywhere on your website, you have to think about, the actions that you want your viewer to take. and obviously call to action buttons and having those across your site is really important. So yeah, so just a really nice way that they have, simply talked about their services and then given you the ability to understand more, and then obviously finishing off with Inquire Now. So I suppose the other side of this, and we touched on it briefly before in terms of pricing, I know, Tom, you get a lot of questions about pricing and, should you have it on your site or should you not have it? I mean, what's your sort of view on this?
Yeah, I think that it's too, what's the word? It's too broad to say that there's one solution for that. So let's say that you're a firm that currently, if your goal is you're looking to get more $2,000 or $3,000 yearly fees from businesses that are, I don't know, maybe $500,000 plus turnover up to $1 million, you just want more of your bread and butter. For those target clients, it's really important to address the price question on your website. And I don't mean to necessarily display your price. Don't say we do tax returns, or not tax returns, but business, corporate accounts and this and that for X, Y, and Z dollars, and here's our packages. You can do that if you want to be really clear about it up front, especially if you do have quite a competitive price. But apart from that, you need to address it. And then what I mean by that is telling people that you have different packages for different business sizes and different levels, so that you can tailor something to that business, so that they don't maybe run the risk of going to your website and thinking, I think these guys are too big for me. They probably can't do, or they're probably going to charge me a very large price to do something quite simple. But if you want to target those people and still capture them, it's important to address them and say, look, for smaller businesses, we can do smaller packages, and just put that into your wording there and have tiered options without necessarily having to say your price on those options. Because it's just better to have the information rather than not, because you just run the risk of people making assumptions. And that's a really big part of what you want to stop with the website. It's part of the point, is giving that information away. But if you are saying, we're only interested in really business development clients, we want to do business planning, cash flow, we want to grow with the client, then you might say, well, we're just going to talk about our solutions here, because it's going to be a different solution for every single client. And when we employ those, we wouldn't do it justice to say, well, it's just going to be this much. And you don't really want people who are worried about the price of a business plan. You want the people that are worried about what kind of growth it gives you, and doing coaching services, what growth it gives you. So if that makes sense, those are just two types of people that you might be appealing to, the standard compliance work that you want more of, versus those who are business growth oriented and you want to do advisory work with, and you have different pricing display strategies for each one of those. And they could just be different for different parts of your website. So you could kind of use both of those depending on what page you're on. So that's where it kind of gets a bit strategic for what you display to people. And you could have many different customer types visiting those pages. So you just need to define them essentially, and then decide whether you show that price or just address it in general is the most important thing.
Great advice. Now, one thing we do need to touch on is making your site visually appealing. And there's been a lot of research done around website visuals, and the outcome is basically it takes your viewers just a third of a second to form an initial impression of your website. So making it easy to navigate, making it sort of visually appealing in terms of layout and graphics and imagery is really, really crucial. So let's break this down into some of the elements that go into this. And I'll just preface this by saying this is with the expectation that you have a firm set of brand guidelines in place. So you've got your brand, you've got your logo, all that's sort of done. Now it's kind of like, how do you structure and format kind of some key pages so that, in that third of a second, when the user first hits one of your pages, they can start to get a sense, a good sense of who you are, and start to take in the information that you're wanting to provide. So the first thing I would suggest is use of sections. And I've definitely seen this mistake in the past, where there would be one long page and it would just be text, screens and screens of text all in one section that is crammed with information. And that is just very, very hard to, for someone to read. And it's also hard for them to sort of take out those key messages that you're trying to communicate. And it just ends up being a bit of a mess. So let's think about sections, and in particular, if you think about for each section, what is the one thing that you want to communicate in that section? What is the one message, the one point that you want to communicate, and then put one point per section. You can see here they've done it so well. The top one is around about cash flow forecasting, and it literally is one sentence. They are keeping it super, super easy. So if you're scrolling down, your eyes are sort of looking all over the site, you rest on this section here, instead of having to read a whole paragraph, you are literally reading one sentence with a call to action, and that's about the information that you can take in as you scroll down. Now, as we go further down, again, we're nice use of imagery to sort of break up the sections, nice use of color. So you can see this section is kind of white with an image, and then we've got sort of different colored section here with some sort of hexagons as well. So again, keeping that copy short and concise is critical, but also that use of imagery and color across your site. It can just be really nice to both make it appealing, but also just to try and communicate who you are a little bit, and maybe who you work with. So in this case, the imagery can be photos of your image. Maybe it's photos of your team kind of at work in the office, and that's obviously what they've done here. Now look, they're pretty easy to get. On your smartphone these days, you'll be surprised what you can take with a smartphone and some good lighting. If you don't want to necessarily pay a professional to come in and take these photos. If you don't have, or you don't want to kind of have photos of yourself or your offices on here, you can use, places like Pixel and Unsplash. And so they're basically free image libraries. You can go in there and download images, and they'll be stock images. So you sort of do have to be careful about looking to like a stock image. But there is a huge amount of variety out there. And so you'll be able to find something that works for you. There are also paid platforms like like iStock and Adobe, and they definitely have a higher level of imagery. Again, you'll find some that hopefully work for your site. I would sort of add things, other things in terms of, or related to imagery, is that it doesn't have to be static. You don't have to only use an image. You can use things like videos or even GIFs to sort of communicate a message. So a GIF could be something simple. It could be sort of looking at, it could be sort of 10 seconds long, looking at something fun that you've done, or looking at a service or a product that you offer. Or it could be something longer, like a video talking about a testimony or a case study or an event that you ran, and you just want to sort of put some key outtakes on your site. So again, these different sections and structures across your website, especially your landing page, will help your readers, I suppose, take in a limited amount of information and sort of understand those key points you want to communicate. But you can also use it to tell stories, either visually with imagery or with the likes of video. Now, it's always important, having done all the hard work of, having great copy and your value prop and a really nice and visually appealing website, don't forget to be clear about the actions that you want the viewer to take. It's all too easy to have, to sort of miss off, these calls to action. And what do I mean by call to action? It's basically an instruction that you're asking the user to do. So the one up here, which is ready to take your business to new heights, that's basically get in touch and receive a complimentary consultation. And the button here, get in touch today, that is how they action that call to action. So if they do that, it opens up this contact form. They can fill out their details, write a subject and a message if they want to, and that is basically they have taken action from your site. It could be anywhere on your site. Like Maisie Harris do have these calls to actions throughout their site, but they all link back to this contact us form, which then delivers to your website, sorry, to your email, and will tell you that someone has just signed up, in this case, for with a contact us form. Now, you can also have other calls to action. In this case, they've got a newsletter. So sign up to a newsletter to stay in the loop. Most accounts I know do run newsletters. So if you don't have this on your page, it's a great way to build your contact list. Obviously, the idea being here, someone giving their email to stay in a newsletter is quite a low touch, low risk strategy for them. They can sort of start to get to know who you are. Equally, over time, you're hoping to build that relationship with them, and ideally convert them to having that conversation about the services that you can offer them. One thing that I don't think is paid enough attention to is really the About Us page. And this is really sort of showcasing who you are and what you as a firm believe in. And it really allows potential clients and partners to connect with the essence of your firm. And what it does, it allows you the opportunity to showcase your expertise and your values and your personality that is going to help set your firm apart from other firms. And so by offering a bit of a glimpse into the history and the team that sits behind the firm, it's going to build trust. And it's also going to enable the clients to know the faces and the stories behind the numbers. So it's a great page. It's a great resource to help humanize the firm and to make it relatable and trustworthy. And this doesn't just stop with the idea of having your sort of profile sections. You can see here up on the right-hand side. Maisie Harris has sort of taken it a step further, and they've actually put up their core beliefs and core values. And look, you may have this already within your firm. I know many do these days. The nice thing about putting it up here actually on their website is that it articulates the guiding principles and values driving your firm. And by clearly defining these beliefs, it communicates the ethical standards and it aligns the expectations to potential clients. So it's really going to act as a compass, so guiding the decision-making processes and reinforcing a commitment to integrity, professionalism, and client-centric practices. So I think this is becoming more and more a core and really powerful differentiator in terms of attracting clients who are going to resonate with the values that you as a firm hold. It can also be quite useful in terms of your own recruitment. So when people are coming to look, at what it would be like to work with you as maybe a staff member, them being able to see all these things before they even maybe come in and have that first conversation are really, really powerful. Now, another really powerful tool, which you really can't afford to not be having on your website, is displaying any awards or accreditations that you have. So again, enhancing your credibility, it should hopefully help set you apart from competitors, especially if you've got lots of awards, and definitely communicates your expertise. So again, it's going to validate, the external validation is going to build that trust with clients. Again, it's going to help you attract talent. So again, they can see, all the amazing things that you guys have done. And it's also great as a marketing tool. So Maisie Harris have chosen to list them. I have seen it done in alternative ways where they have the logos of those awards with those accreditations lined out. It's really up to you as to how you want to do it. In this case, Maisie Harris have actually put the video of the People's Choice winner in there as well. So they've made it a little bit interactive as well. Now, testimonials and case studies are also crucial for building that trust and credibility. And much like your accreditations and awards, this is what we basically call social proof. And it's going to basically address any potential client concerns that they might have about working with you, but it also showcases all the positive client experiences that your clients have had with you. So that's going to, definitely enhance your positive brand image. It's also going to help your SEO, and it reinforces the partnership aspect of the client relationships. You can see here on the left-hand side, great people who have worked to understand and support our business. Highly recommend to any outfit looking for sound guidance or for growth opportunities. So again, you can see here the power of having another business talk about you in a way that, when you have basically prospective clients looking for you on your website, or in this case, Google, and I know Tom's going to talk about this in a minute, these sorts of word of mouth social proof elements are super, super powerful and really, really important.
I think just to add in there, when people always ask, what do I put on my website to, show that we're different? Well, there's pretty much nothing that you can write that is going to show that you're different, because it's all been said before, whether it's service or how, even if you respond to emails within a certain time frame, or your target client or whatever it is, putting it on there. But what actually does separate you is what other people say about you, and showing that those are real stories as well. So that's why we'll talk about it in a moment, but linking through your Google reviews to your website where people are telling stories about you is telling people, hey, just look what other people say about me, not look what I say about myself, which operates under the same mindset of why referrals work so well. Someone's referring you, and it's like people like to refer a good thing. So you trust that referral as opposed to going to someone's site and being like, oh, that really speaks to me. It's more, well, I want to make sure that they're going to do a good job. How can I prove that they will? And so, yeah, we'll talk about it in a moment, but that is what I believe should be the spearhead of your website and your marketing.
Now, look, lastly, I'll just cover blogs. And I have definitely seen too many accounting sites out there whose website finishes with, they might do an about us, they might have sort of some services, but they don't take advantage of the power of blogs. And you can see here, this is Maisie Harris's blog page. You can see it's updated fairly regularly, and it covers a variety of different topics. So you can see here, it's got things like some team focused things like the end of year get together, kind of inviting people to barbecue their whole in. It also has things like news updates. So GST rules are changing. It also covers education. So in this case, 7 causes of poor cash flow, as well as training. So in this case, Xero for beginners. So a really nice mixture of content here that is going to both, you know, they can also send it out in their newsletters and link to it from their social channels. But the nice thing here is there's a lot of information here if their clients want to come here regularly or prospects want to come here regularly and start to, I suppose, benefit from some of the expertise within the firm. Now, the interesting thing is that Maisie Harris have done, I suppose, the wise thing, and they're not trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to content. So some of it is created by them. Others is actually using content from the Boma platform and from the Gap platform. And the point here is that, you know, they have gone in and customized that content. They've made it unique to them and their experience, but they haven't tried to reinvent the wheel every time. And in Maisie Harris's case, they're actually able to post the content directly from Boma to their website as a blog. So in terms of efficiencies and that automation that Tom was talking about earlier, it's a really nice thing to be able to kind of know that your blog is mostly taken care of. Now, the other reason why blog is so important is because it does play a crucial role in your search engine optimization or SEO. And that's obviously something that Tom is going to cover in more detail. But if you want to get ranked on Google and have your website appear along certain search terms that your ideal clients would be looking for, then you can't just rely on having, you know, a services page, an about us page, and a homepage. You really need to be getting into your blog and using the power of this sort of content. So look, Tom, I'll hand over to you. I think you've got it.
Yeah, I'll screen share and just take that one from here, if that's all right. So there we are. Can you see my screen, Charles?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, perfect. So what my real goal is for just this section here is to give you all some highly actionable points that you can take away and go, okay, this is what really good quality websites are doing.
Sorry, Tom, just to interrupt. Can you make that screen a full share? It's just we're seeing your the tabs and everything.
Oh, yep, sure thing. Okay, whoops, that's just opening that video up. Hang on 1 second. Let me just share that.
Also, if you have a slideshow at the top right hand side.
Yep. Okay. Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back here, so I really want to give some actionable tips, things you can take away and do today, tomorrow, delegate to someone, and these are all on the sheet you'll get sent through after this session as well. So the number one thing to address, I think I mentioned before, is dynamic content. The last thing you want is a website that just sits there static, and 2 or 3 years later you go, wow, that's looking a bit stale, isn't it? And some people sort of ask, how do you keep it fresh? And so in terms of one of the ways you can keep it fresh, which works really well and is relatively inexpensive, is live linking the reviews people post about you, not just on Google, but that is really important, but also on Facebook too, and wherever people are writing about your business and what you do, link them through to the homepage of your website. And what that can look like is this screenshot just over here on the left, is you're pulling through these reviews from different dates, November 13th, 20th, back in 2023, all the way through to 2021. And you get those through. So when every time someone visits your homepage on your site, they're seeing the latest things that people are saying about your business. And you've even got the little Google logo there too. And people trust that. They trust when they see that logo because they know it's pulled from Google reviews, and it's not just sort of that floating head stock image of some person smiling who's got way too white teeth. They're obviously an actor, sitting there saying, this is the best firm, blah, blah, blah. Even if that's a real quote that you put up on your site from a client and you've put just their name there, it's less trustworthy than having a Google logo there or even a Facebook logo, so that people can fact check that and pull through, make sure that that's what people are saying about you. So that's where I say that's how you can keep content dynamic on your website really easily. And think about that. If you have those popping up at the top of your site when people visit it and it's fresh each time, then on top of that, you're using Boma and you've got fresh blogs pulling through pretty much automatically into your site. People see two things. They see people recommend these guys, they like working with this firm. And here's a story about how they actually saved this person a bunch of money, and it resulted in massive life-changing consequences for them and things like that, things that we probably all hear from clients every now and then. And then just below that, they see how you're talking about the latest tax changes might affect your clients in a blog, and that's pulled through from Boma, and maybe you've sprinkled some edits into it as well. It's the opposite of a static website, and you don't have to lift a finger to keep that updating permanently. So you can have a beautiful header, beautiful reviews pulling through, and beautiful content there. And we can talk about a bit later collecting those reviews too, because you don't want to display reviews from 3 years ago. You want to have people leaving you reviews frequently. And so we'll talk about how to get that out into all your communications as well. Because then you just have a system, people are leaving reviews for you. You don't have to ask for them. It's just happening. Those reviews are getting pulled through to your website. You've got Boma content there, and that's really an easy way to do it. Now, the next thing, and I would say this is the most important thing, or probably the best thing that you could do, but I recognize is the hardest, is sitting there and filming a case study with your clients. Like, here's one that I did film with one of my clients, and you can see it on my website. And I'll send it through the link through afterwards too, to show you what that looks like. But go out to your clients. This is out in their boardroom, sitting in their office, and say, what do you like about working with us? And put that up on your website. And again, that's really hard to do because you've got to get the time, you've got to get the videographer, you've got to get the editing done. But if you can, that can be the flagship of your marketing for years. And then you don't really worry about, what do we need to put as the best thing, best foot forward at the front of the website. You've got your video testimonial, you've got your Google reviews pulling through, they're constantly updated, and you've got fresh content onto that. So I won't go too much on that anymore, but I just get asked all the time, how do I create dynamic content on the website without having to put too much time in? And that's probably the best way. Now, this is, to some people, this will be boring, but to me, this is very, very interesting. And this is SEO. And SEO, someone asked before, what is SEO? It's search engine optimization. And to put it simply, it's when you type in, you want to buy a laptop or a printer, which website shows up first, because it's very valuable to that website to show up first so they can sell you a laptop or a printer. It's the same in the accounting and business advisory world. If someone's looking for a cash flow or business plan to be done, who shows up first? If someone's looking for accountants in their area because the accountant has just handed them a ridiculously large bill they weren't expecting, they want to switch, who shows up first? So it's all about that game of making sure you show up first. And that could be all the way down to you write a blog about different ways to improve your cash flow, and making sure that shows up when people search for how to improve their cash flow. And then you can maybe get 100 people to that each month, and then maybe you can convert some of them over to calling you to ask a further question about their cash flow, and you might bring 1 or 2 customers on per month, and that can keep going forever. So it's a really good long-term strategy, because you build it out and you build trust from Google so that Google puts you as #1 position there. And over time, you get results out of that without really having to think about it too much. So I have included, there was a firm that said they were happy for us to analyze their website live, and they said they were interested in SEO and looking at that. So I have pulled Brew Accounting on here. Thank you for letting us look at your website. What I've done is, we have some tools, and these are free tools, this one, so that you can go on and use this yourself and have a look at your site. But ultimately, there are some really big basic principles with Google that you just need to hit that you could do today or tomorrow that are really easy. So number one is for every page on your website, there has to be a title and a description. And put simply, that is the title that shows up on your Google search listing and the description underneath it. So we've all seen on Google the different results that show up. Each result has a title and a description, and you can set that to be whatever you want. If you don't, Google will just pull what it guesses your title and description are from your page, which could be anything. It could be quite ugly. It could just be a snippet that's pulled from the page. So it's really important to set that, and you can do that in your website through a tool that I'll give you a little bit later on. So I suggest some free tools to use as well. So on the right here, we've got head, title, and description. I can check what the title and description is for any page on anyone's website. And so this one here is one where I say, look, good job in having a title and description, but it might be a little bit off because the page that is used for is cash flow and profit improvement. So on the cash flow and profit improvement page, we're talking about hospitality, accounting, tax accountants, and business advisors. That's what will show up on Google. People come through to the cash flow and profit improvement page. So where I would suggest improving there is saying, well, let's build a page about how we do, work with hospitality businesses and our specialization in that, and talk about that specifically, and then put that title and description onto that page. And then for the cash flow page, talk specifically about your cash flow improvement services, and make sure that that aligns. Because if someone clicks that and says hospitality, bookkeeping, and accounting services on Google, they come through to a cash flow and improvement site that's not really talking about hospitality. There's a good chance they might just press back and go back to the Google searches and click another result, which is one of the number one factors that determines whether Google is going to make you show up in Google search results. If people click to your site and then just immediately go back and go to another website on the Google list, what does it show? That your website wasn't the right result. And if enough people do that, then you're just going to be pushed down the rankings. So that's one of the key things with search engine optimization is what do you tell Google is on the site has to line up with what is on there, and make sure you're always inputting that data. Another thing to do here is for images on your website, what you can do is put descriptions, titles, and tags behind those. What that actually does is it means that if people who have a disability come to your website and use some of the tools that they use to read through websites, maybe they're vision impaired, and Google will be able to tell them what the images are of on your page and how your page is structured. And that makes a good quality website. And so that's another one of those little things that Google is going to say, well, if you're a good quality website and you do things like that, we'll rank you better on Google search results. Now, these last two images down the bottom left and right here are things to pay attention to and do come from paid tools. But I'm happy to, if you reach out to me, I'll give you a snapshot of what this looks like for your business. On the left here, we have a graph that shows the last 2 years of traffic coming to a website from Google. What this does is shows, well, where do you show up on Google searches? And how much traffic do you get? And for this firm, they've been building from about 500 to about 1,000 in traffic coming every month to their website. So they're just under 1,000 now at 964. And that's improved a lot in the last year by 331. You can check things like, hey, if we had to pay for ads to show up every time our business shows up in search results, what would we have to pay? And that value here is $1,300 every month for this business, because they're showing up for some valuable search terms like accountants in Brisbane. 300 or 400 people search that every month. If you're first, second, or third, you'll get good quality leads coming through your door every month. So it's a valuable search term, and that's where you get that number from. Then there's also keywords. How many times do you show up on Google for searches that people make? And in this case, it's 2,100 times for this firm. So it's something to stay on top of and check. But once you hit some of your basic principles, put titles on your pages, descriptions, and images, and put the text behind the images, that's really going to help you. So here are some really easy and free SEO tools that you can use. The number one I recommend is Rank Math. So if you install that on your website, if you're using a WordPress website, that is, because a lot of tools for SEO are built for WordPress websites. What that'll enable you to do is really easily set that title and description for every page. It'll warn you if your images don't have any tags behind them, and don't have information to say what that image is of. So it'll pretty much run you through a wizard to set all of that up yourself. And there's a free version they have too. We use it with clients all the time. 2 is Link Whisper. They do have a free version as well. What Link Whisper does is, you probably saw on the Macy Harris website when they talked about cash flow, you could actually click that button and go to the cash flow page. And what Link Whisper is going to do is run a search over your whole website and say, okay, anytime you talk about this topic, you should probably link to this page because we think they're related topics. And it just gives you a checklist, and it's really simple. You can go through and go accept, 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 and it'll insert the links to go to those correct pages. And what that does is makes your website a little bit closer to being what Wikipedia is like. Now, when you go to Wikipedia and you look at different pages, you can click, there's a million links on every page to find out more about what that thing is. Like you're talking about pencils and it says the inventor was this person, or you're reading the pencil page and it says this person invented it, whoever it is. And then you can click their name and learn more about them. Your website should be similar. You're talking about cash flow, put a link into your cash flow services on your website as well. So people can easily bounce around your site. That's going to be really good for SEO too, because Google loves people bouncing around your site and looking at all of your things. It's the total opposite of them arriving on your site and just leaving. Uber suggests that's going to give you some keyword search histories, like so you can find out how many people search for this particular term each month. Like if you're an accountant in Nelson in New Zealand, how many people search for that every month? Accountant Nelson. You can find that in Uber Suggest. You can in AdWords Keyword Planner. That's Google's advertising tool. You can sign up for an account there, see what people are searching for, and see trends as well. Which brings me on to the next one is Google Trends. You can actually go on there, and that's a fun tool. You can see what are people searching for right now on Google, and then type in different topics like accountant Brisbane or tax. Look at the recent tax changes that have been made for contractors, for example, and type that in and find, well, what are people searching around that? And maybe I should make a blog about that, or maybe I should talk about that on my website. Now, there are two others that are a little bit, obviously, Boma is, that's something you should definitely be jumping on top of and personalizing the content for your website. And they do have a free trial of 14 days that you can do because that's just going to give you that dynamic content on your site, show people you're alive and breathing and that you're not potentially closed down. Sometimes you go to a website and you go, these guys still in business? You don't actually know. So, it shows that you're alive, breathing, and that you're abreast of the most recent tax changes. People know they're going to get a high quality service with you because you're writing about the most recent changes. And the other thing you could use, and this is a suggestion, is something called Neuron Writer. And this is interesting. This is probably a little bit more advanced. But in case you're interested, what this does is you could, for example, put a blog from Boma in, and it's a writing tool. And it could tell you how to edit that blog to add your brand voice in there. And it can also tell what keywords to add in. And it can also tell you how to get that content to rank well on Google for a particular search term. So you might take a blog about cash flow and say, I want to rank this for cash flow changes 2023 on Google. I want to be the first person to show up with that blog. And you can mold and edit that blog to really easily. It tells you what to write and how to change that. So it's a really fun tool. I won't go too much into it because it's a rabbit hole. You can go on forever, but I love using it. We use it all the time. Local SEO principles. So a lot of people think that your Google business listing isn't affected by your website, but it is. 100% it is. Your Google listing is tied to your website. So if you're talking about services on your website and you're not talking about them on your Google business listing, and there is a section to put in your services on your Google business listing, then you're missing out you're leaving money on the table, basically. Because what I'm looking at here on this screen on the left, this is a map, and thank you again, Brew Accounting, for being okay with me posting this up live on the webinar. What I've done is run their business through our tools here. And what this shows, this map, is their office is in the middle of Wollongong here, down in Australia, obviously, not South Australia, but down in New South Wales. And if someone was standing just outside their business, what these 4s and 2s indicate is that if they typed in and searched for an accountant, then that business, Brew Accounting, would show up 4th here, 2nd if you were standing here, 17th if you were standing up here. And so as you get further away from the business location, you show up later and later in search results with your business listing. So something I'd suggest doing, Brew Accounting and lots of other firms, is pay attention to what you write in your description about your business and on your Google business listing, and make sure it matches up with your website. So here we have from Brew Accounting down the bottom right, helping you grow your business and create the future you deserve. A great line, but Google gives you about 250 words that you can put in there. So it's really important to use those words to talk about, and you can even copy things from your website into that description area for your Google business listing, and talk about the services you provide, how you help people in that area, and mention some of the suburbs around there, because that's all sending signals to Google to say, we care, our profiles filled in quite well. So you should trust us. They'll start to show you in a further area around your business, which just means that when someone up here in Fairy Meadow or down here in Spring Hill searches for an accountant or accounting services, you're much more likely to show up first. And then the other part of that is building these Google reviews. We'll talk about that later, and we are offering a trial to everyone for a system that just does that for you on autopilot. You just put it on all your email signatures, a link. You can add QR codes to your documents that you send out. Even we'll send tap cards you can tap to people's phones. And what happens is when anyone scans the code, clicks the link, does anything like that, they get taken to your feedback page, which collects Google reviews for them and helps stop negative reviews. So you don't have to worry about someone being a little bit annoyed that maybe they didn't get the tax return that they thought they would, or their tax outcome they thought they would, just blasting you online. This will stop that as well. So what that helps do is just collect reviews on autopilot and then display those on your website. It also does that too. So you'll have that dynamic content. You won't have to worry about how do we keep that updated and keep it fresh. So moving on, SEO content here. I saw it before. Charles went over it with Macy Harris & Co. If you notice that when you're on their webpage and you click on, you can see their services there firstly, and you can click to go to their cash flow page, or you can just click to go to their services page. But if you click to go to the services page from the homepage, and then on that services page, click to go to cash flow, there's only 3 levels there. Cash flow doesn't kind of then break off into another topic, and that's what it should be. Your website should be 3 leveled. Everything should be 3 clicks away from one another. And if it's not, that's going to give you negative Google points effectively. Google doesn't think that's a good quality website. So this is again Brew Accounting, which is great. They've got lots of blogs posted on their website. Their archives here go back years and years and years, which is fantastic because Google loves content. But also, if you go into solutions up on the top menu here, this is the top menu of their website. You can see the different services they provide and the different areas they work in. What I would suggest in this case, given I am reviewing the website live, is under solutions, I'd probably split that out. So your solutions really are the services you provide. And then your specialization areas, or you can call that sort of niches or whatever you like, that's individual hospitality or different industries you might look at there too. So I would split those out. And the idea with that structure is that it should form a cluster. So this is where down the bottom right here, we have internal linking with content clusters. Google wants to see you talking about a broad topic, and that might be business planning. And then off business planning, you might talk about a 1-page business plan, or you might talk about a 5-step action plan or 2024 business plans and what they look like, but all linking back to that business plan topic. So you kind of keep clusters of content on your website rather than just spreading it out randomly across the board. We can talk a little bit more about that, if you are looking at seriously improving the ranking of your website on Google, because you just need to draw a diagram and have a hierarchy that describes all of that. Now, that's how you organize your content. And again, remember, 3-layered, everything 3 clicks away from each other, and keep things in clusters. So make sure topics are related to each other. And I mentioned that tool before, Link Whisper, is really useful at that, because if you've got clusters of topics, it's going to tell you how to link those clusters together automatically. So you don't need to think about it too much. Website speed. So this is huge. A lot of people don't pay attention to this, and it only really pops up when you're sitting. We're all about to be at Christmas. I'm going to be sitting with my family, and they're going to go, how's your business going? And someone's going to sit there and look it up on their phone. It's just what happens. And sometimes you get that, like, if your website's not quick, people will go, oh, geez, sorry, it's still loading, or I'm still waiting. And it's a bit like you're a little bit embarrassed, like, oh, it should load quickly. That's actually a much easier thing to solve than you might think. It actually really and truly is. So what you can do is run your website through a website speed test. I don't have the link in here. Maybe Charles can add it, because I think he knows where it is too. But if you go to Google and you type in Google page speed test, you can put your website URL in there, and it'll give you this, which is an idea for what your score is out of 100 for how fast your website loads. Brew Accounting, this is yours. So you're 42 out of 100 with first content paint at 6.3 seconds. That means that the first bit of content starts to show up after 6.3 seconds. And then typically your website is loaded by this time here, which is speed index, 9.1 seconds. And you might think, oh, well, when I go to the website, that doesn't happen. And we can all get lured into this false sense of security, because if you go to your own website, what will happen is you will have visited there before, and Google or your browser would have stored a version of that website on your local computer. So you might think it loads quickly, but it's not loading from the internet. It's loading from your computer. So what we're looking at here is when someone who hasn't visited your website before, doesn't have a copy of it downloaded on their computer, visits it, they got to download the whole thing. And how fast does that load for them? Now, if it's 9 seconds, if your score is looking below sort of 40 or 50 on there, there's a good chance that you might be referred someone who wants to work with you, and they might they'll Google you, look at your reviews, click on your website. There's all these gates they've got to get through. You've got to have good reviews. You've got to have, your website's got to be visible there, have a nice title and description on Google. But if they click on the site and it's just they're like sitting there for 5, 6, 7 seconds, you might lose 50% of them. They might just go back and go, yeah, I've been referred another person too. I'll type them in and see if they come up quicker, because people's attention span is very short these days, especially the younger generations. Literally they're scrolling through 7-second reels on their phone. Like 7 seconds is like not enough even to give a reel or like a TikTok a chance to see what it's all about. So try to go to a new accountant's website, like a lot of people will just back out of it. So that's a really easy problem to fix. If you have a bad score on there, feel free to reach out. We do have software that we can load onto your site that will pretty much instantly take that up to a 100. And it's proprietary software, is really good, but it's just going to fix that for you and load your website instantly, so you'll never run into that problem again. I'll keep blazing through here because I am cautious of time. Tracking, if you don't know if your website's installed, Google is tracking your analytics for how long people spend on the site, how many people come from different channels to your site. Reach out to us because we can check that for you. But it's very important that you have that set up. That's a dig the well before you need the water kind of thing, because years later you'll go, what are we getting out of our website? What kind of traffic? And if you haven't been recording, it's too late. You can't go back in time. Set it up. It takes 10 minutes. It's really easy to do with Google Analytics. And if you literally Google it, you can do it yourself. But otherwise you can chat to us. We're more than happy to help with that. Your contact form, you would be surprised the amount of people I speak to who don't know if their contact form works, and I don't receive anything from it, so I don't know if it works. Contact forms actually are a little bit more complicated than you might think, because to email you from your contact form, like your website has to email you, which means that your website has to have an email address, which means that in the world where we're all getting so much spam, emails from an automated service like a website can just be classed as spam. And I've had so many clients go, I'm not getting anything through my contact form or through my website. And I'm like, check your spam. And they check it. I had a guy do that. It was 2 months ago, checked his spam folder, and a $5 million pool installation business had reached out to him to say, hey, I want to get a quote on this. I saw you on Google and saw your reviews. And they reached out and had the chance to quote. And they're a little bit behind the 8 ball because they left it for a bit, but just double check it, because you would feel it would be so silly to check your spam and go, what? I missed out on that, So definitely double check that that's working. That's something I think we can help with, but I think even the guys at Boma would check that with you too, or just put a little a test in, make sure it comes through. Okay, so I think that was all I wanted to go through from today. I think Charles and I, we have this to-do checklist for you, and we'll send out a bit more of an in-depth one that has about 14 points to it after this. But I really hope, my goal was to give you all some really actionable tips and some insights into some things that maybe are a little bit more complicated. And maybe you go, oh, that kind of makes my head spin there. But look, if you want to get it all sorted for 2024, reach out to Charles and I, get your website updated with Boma content, updated with your reviews showing, start collecting those reviews, just get your SEO house in order. You'll thank yourself for it a year later with the foundation set up nicely, and take it from there. And I'll quickly just respond to that question there. Do we recommend embedded forms to use in the website as a contact form as opposed to WP plugins? Absolutely. That can take away that problem of, am I getting things through or not? They're much more reliable. You just have to make sure you can get your branding on point for them, because sometimes they're a bit iffy with that, but HubSpot's pretty good. So hopefully that helped.
Cool. We're right on time, but should we just quickly go through the final page, and then if anyone has any questions, Tom and I are happy to stay on for another minute or two. Tom, do you just mind going to the next slide, please?
Oh, yes, I forgot that I was screen sharing.
Oh, that's okay. So look, there's a number of ways that you can take advantage of some of the insights and tips that we talked about today. Obviously, you can sign up if you're not already a user to Boma's 14-day free trial. As Tom talked about, we can enable through Zapier Boma to basically post content to your website, those blogs, and that's at bomamarketing.com. Tom, do you want to quickly talk about the website audit and the E1?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things that we're doing. One is we'll sit and do an hour meeting with you, and we'll go over your entire website, and we'll check all of those things I was talking about today and give you a list of what to improve. And if we have time, we'll improve some of them ourselves, even just on that call with you too. We're doing that for $99, and we charge a fee on that because it means we can put a proper amount of time into it and actually give you recommendations and do some of the actions ourselves as well if you give us a look into your website. So that's also going to help you increase your website speed, set the analytics up, all that sort of thing. We're going to help go over that with you. And then the other one was starting an E1 free trial. That's a software that we have, which basically collects your reviews to Google from your clients on autopilot, as long as you just pop it into your signature, into your email system, and do all of that sort of thing. And we guide you through that. And it also gives you QR codes and things you can put onto your documentation. So you collect reviews on autopilot. We see clients getting on average sort of like 4 to 10 reviews every month coming through. And then it automatically displays those reviews on your website. And it also filters out negative reviews. So if someone feels the need, they get an email from you and they blast you, it's going to give you a chance to respond to them privately before it goes onto your public review profile online. So that's how you can set that up and get nice dynamic content on your website with really good quality, real reviews on there. And you can link it to Facebook too. So those are the two things we're offering. That's a 3-day trial. That's 14 days. You can just test that out and see how you feel. But otherwise, we'll sit down and do a marketing review for you too.
Cool.
So those are the two things that we're offering.
Right, and a couple of questions come through. One is, we'll be sharing the content of today's presentation. Yes, we'll be sending you an email tomorrow that will have the content and also the sort of checklist tips that Tom mentioned. And then I think, Tom, you're just answering this directly. This was about
just how the review request would look in an email signature. What I'll do is, if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email, because it's hard for me to describe it on the presentation there too, and I'll put my email address in. But it's effectively you're just putting a hyperlinked line into your email signature that says, it would make our day if you would leave us a review or feedback for our business. But you could also put it in the form of an image, and we can design up nice images to stick in the email signature too, that generally it's custom branded for what your business wants. It's not sort of one size fits all.
Brilliant. Look, I think that might be it in terms of questions. Thank you, everyone, for staying on so long. I realize we've gone a little bit over time, but I hope you feel it was valuable. As I said, we'll be sending through a recording, so keep an eye out for that. There may be people that you want to share it within your business, so you can just share that link with them. But thank you so much for joining us, and thanks so much to you, Tom, for your expertise today.
No problems. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And the last thing I'll add is, outside of the sort of paid for marketing audit that we do, I'm also happy to organise just a free chat with people, but we won't really go over their resources. Just if they have any little questions too, we can talk about that. So just shoot me an email. But thanks everyone for coming.
Cool. Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye.